Welcome to Meeple, uniting players from around the world. A 30-minute exploration of PJ and Gareth's board game experiences from across both sides of the Atlantic. Each episode, they share their thoughts and opinions on the world of board games, including their favourite themes, games, hot topics, and much, much more.
Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 51. That's right, we made it past the first hurdle. 50 episodes, now into 51. As always, I'm PJ.
And I'm Gareth.
And today we are here, we've got a special guest. We're going to be talking with Sam Barmettler, the designer of Outrun the Bear. Sam, how are you?
Doing well, nice to be here with you guys. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. We're really pleased that you took some time out of your day and worked with all the time difference constraints between the three of us.
This is perfect for me, though. It's like 1 p.m. on a Sunday. Couldn't be more casual than that.
PJ, what's it for you, PJ?
It is 3:00 in the afternoon here.
9 p.m. here. So yeah, we are literally spreading the time zone piece. And I think, and we've talked about Outrun the Bear. Certainly, you talked about it last year. We talked about it, I think, a couple of weeks ago. And then on the back of the episode, somebody asked me to take it to a convention we went to yesterday. So I'm certainly fresh from teaching it and not outrunning the bear. PJ, do you want to do an overview, or Sam, do you want to do an overview of the game if people haven't heard about the game itself?
Yeah. So basically, and Sam, if you want to chime in, obviously, of course. So It's really simple. You have to outrun the bear, right? And it is a 1 to 6 player. Is that right? 1 to 6?
2 to 6 players.
2 to 6 players. And you're moving across a linear path of tiles that are double-sided, which allows for replayability, which is fantastic. And you take a turn, and then the bear moves, right? And it just kind of back and forth. And we're trying to get to the end of the path before the bear eats us. And it can be as pleasant and nice, and it can be as vicious as the players want it to be. And apparently Gareth and I have very different views on this game.
Or different groups of friends. There was no friends last night. Everyone was just trying to get their way across. Sam, is this your first game design?
First published, yeah. So
where did the idea come from?
It actually, you guys familiar with the Board Game Design Lab podcast? If I can throw a plug in here for them, for any other designers out here. So I was working on trying to design a game for a while, something really big and heavy, something that I was super passionate about. And then they just did an episode that was on racing games. And I'm like, that's interesting. I couldn't remember having played a racing board game before. Once I really started to abstract that out, I'm like, okay, I've actually played a bunch of racing board games before. It's just wasn't really what I thought. But I was thinking, just when I heard that idea as a design exercise, I'm like, okay, well, what would I do for a racing board game? And I remembered the old Need for Speed 2 game had this racing elimination mode. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of fun. That's kind of a little different. And I remembered enjoying that and enjoying the challenge. And then I just mixed in that old proverb / joke. How do you outrun a bear? You don't have to be faster than the bear, just faster than the person next to you. And everything just kind of fell in from there. The mechanics and all that kind of came from just talking to people who don't play many games and realizing they were excited about the idea of the game. So then I knew I needed to keep it real simple so it was still approachable to them. And I was actually talking to my dad. He got super excited about it during the pandemic. And he was never excited about any board game project I was talking about. So he was just like, make that, but make it easy enough I can play it. So that's what I tried to do.
That is awesome. So the overall design, you had in mind non-gamers and to play this. That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
Yep. And is there anything you learned through the process that, I guess, that complexity, removing complexity? So you started with probably, was it a more ball gamers game? How did you streamline it?
Interesting enough, it seems to me that there's kind of 3 different designers different types of designers out there, if you could put us all into different categories. And they kind of come the clay workers, the sculptors, and the painters. So painters, I describe myself in that category, kind of start with like that blank canvas and slowly add. So they'll go from real simple to eventually more complex. Sculptors go from real complicated to real simple and elegant, is the way they tend to move. And then the sculptors, they end up all over the place, pulling things in, throwing things out. They're real chaotic from my viewpoint, but they also make some amazing and probably the most creative games out there. You'll find designers who kind of have that process. So my game became more complex, not more simple throughout the process. It started very basic, just cards, and the bear moved on dice. And it started being like, okay, let's make this so it's more controllable, which meant adding complexity.
I love that analogy of the three different game designers.
Yeah,
and I think it's really interesting to hear how that game got designed, because going from dice to, I think, that suspense of the bear moving once everyone has moved. So in the game at the end, there on the board there are footprints, bear paw prints, and depending on how many are behind the lead player is how many cards you draw from the bottom of the deck, and that's how many spaces the bear moves. So sometimes it's one or two, or you might get lucky with a lot of low cards, and sometimes there's a 2 or 3, and the bear's got you, unless you got some ham, or another way of stopping that bear from grabbing hold of you. And yes, whatever happens once you get grabbed by a bear.
Because those cards are actually coming from the bottom of the discard deck, though, it shouldn't be real random in there. It's really all controlled by the players how fast that bear is going to go.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's clicked that, actually. I must admit, we've just been discarding cards. I don't think anyone's been...
when you play on that level. That's where you get really deep into the strategy. That's where I play with high-level gamers playing the game.
I need to play a game now, because I think when we're playing cards to survive, actually you can play cards to obviously control that bear.
Yes, you can.
It's really obvious, but that's a really nice design.
I want to talk about the physical design of the bear for just a minute. I think it's brilliant. You got like because it's the entire width of the path, the tiles that make up the path, but yet it's got the two kind of the feet on either side that allows it to slide smoothly. How did the evolution of the bear? Can you take us through that process?
Okay, so first prototype, the bear was a pawn that was sitting on the side of the board. And that just, it felt kind of boring. You could tell that it wasn't very menacing early on. And I honestly, it was a playtester said, what'd be really cool was if like the terrain kind of disappeared there with how this bear was moving. Of course, I wanted something that looked like a bear there. So that kind of put it in that general direction. I think prototype 2, I had a bear that spanned the board. Wow. It just kind of came real early, and it was just putting the game in front of the right playtesters at the right time early on. Kind of just helped that happen. And then it used. Okay, so now it feels like a big bear. But it literally used to be 10 inches tall.
Wow.
In the first physical prototype that I had. Actually, if people got to see the game at PAX Unplugged in 2021 or Dice Tower West 2022, it had that real giant bear. I even had one person reach out and say, hey, I really want that old giant bear that you had. So I had to send them the print file so they could order it from the Game Crafter and include it with all their copies that they had bought for friends. But it just presented a challenge that it was really kind of difficult to maneuver with the board, and also the other challenges of putting in a box that was the box size that I wanted. And trying to keep it approachable means trying to keep it cheap, and I know the game's not necessarily considered cheap by a lot of people, but it's still in that lower range than instead of having to go into a $60 box. So.
Yeah, I think because the table presence is, with the bear as it is, it still looks like this enormous bear, coming down on people. The thought of a 10-inch, I do need those files now. I've heard of them.
Right? I feel like there's an opportunity.
They should be shared with the world. Maybe they should be on Board Game Geek in the file section if you ever release them.
Absolutely.
Or it's a future Kickstarter file. That's amazing. Is there anything else you learned through? I guess this is your first Kickstarter, I guess, as well. And the game was designed through the pandemic. Coming out of that, what did you learn from, I guess, the Kickstarter experience?
Oh, geez, that's a big question. My Kickstarter was like nothing else that I had ever done. But the big thing is just trying to communicate with the community as much as possible. It was really difficult for me. I'm not naturally just like inclined to spend time with people. I did not use any social media before doing this. And you kind of have to do that in order to build up the community and talk about the game, and people want to know about the game. I just had somebody yesterday reach out with a rules question via Instagram while they're playing the game. And it's only because I'm on social media now that I was able to respond while they're playing the game. But that was one of the difficulties, was just getting into that headspace of like, hey, this is actually important to talk to people, because my parents were both entrepreneurs. My mom ran a bakery. My dad was in construction. It's like, you don't have community doing those things. You don't have to work around a community. That was probably the biggest challenge. And I'm still trying to learn how to do that and build up the right habits for that, especially when you've got other work that you have to do and keep up with.
Is there anything planned for the future for Outrun the Bear, or are you just still...
So right now I've been focusing, we just opened up our web store for Outrun the Bear last week. So that's been going great. That was fun, and also fun to learn how difficult it is to actually pack boxes by hand and then go into a post office and say, hey, I've got 45 copies I need you to send out today. And then, I'm back again tomorrow. So because I've got that going now, I've got a few other things to take care of with that, and then just getting in the routine of sustaining that. And then I'm on to our expansions. There are expansions that we are planning. Character expansions are something that we definitely want to do. I definitely want to add some characters that add some complexity to it. And you never know. One day you might be outrunning something other than a bear, which might change some of those mechanisms to bring in the more gamery of players. Because then that was one of the goals with the game, was this is actually something I'm secretly using to bring in non-gamers and say, hey, here's our next little change, and just kind of use that to build on them and teach them some other things other than just the card draw and card play.
Well, last night we had a mixture of 5 gamers. Some who we've only ever see once a year, but they game very little, so they are perfect for that audience, through to some very, we play games a lot, and the non-gamer just instantly connected. Like you say, they were there, they loved the theme. He's actually designed a couple of his own games, but he's not a huge gamer as such. And really enjoyed it, and could see, I think from the start, that the simple mechanic, but at the same time, just the options. He's working through all the different options on his cards. Could you play equipment? Everyone's engaged from the moment that first card is played, right till the moment that I think the bear was like 3 spaces away from the car, with pieces of ham being thrown around. It's in those games, everyone after was talking about it, like telling a story. You've had a good experience when people are talking about the game 5 minutes later, about all the things that happened on the journey. So that's really exciting. And is the game on the web store, is that US only shipping, or is that international as well?
That is US only shipping right now. We do have other options that are opening up soon. So we've got the Amazon store coming up real soon.
Okay.
That's going to be US, Canada, and Mexico. And then there's a web store in the UK that's going to be able to handle UK and EU. That it's been a little bit of a process. They've got a lot going on through the summer, but hopefully soon that'll open up. That's
great. So. Great. Yeah, we'll update the links on the podcast so people can know where to get it from.
Awesome. Thank you.
I picked it up at the UK Games Expo. And yeah, that was great.
Yeah, that was one of the top 5 conventions I've ever been to. That was so exciting. And okay, so this is really just a cultural thing, but when everyone tells you your game is brilliant, you feel really good after a weekend with them.
So were you at the UK Games Expo this year?
Yeah.
Damn.
You walked right by me when you picked up a copy.
Did I? Oh.
Yeah. I didn't recognize you. Otherwise, I would have tried to spot you.
Yeah,
but no. I had people at the table from like 9:30 in the morning until the doors closed all 3 days, just playing the game. I was teaching the game all weekend.
Yeah, it's a good thing. So I think, go on, PJ.
You sold out of everything at Gen Con this year, didn't you?
Yeah. Yep.
So did that free up time? Nice. Did that free up time for you to just kind of socialize and build that social muscle?
Yeah, so did that free up time? Not really. Okay. The reason why was I was actually at Gen Con with another company that helps out indie games.
Yeah.
And while I was there with them, what it was I booked the table for a certain number of hours during a couple of days. So I was going to be there at that table that period of time, the entire time that I was there. But also I was meeting up with some other designers, other publishers, trying to do all that. It's once you get in the publisher space, those conventions become as much business as they are fun.
Yeah.
So
sure, I get it.
So I didn't get to spend a whole lot of time with the community, other than I did sign up for some Learn to Play events. So I had people come and play the Learn to Plays. Had a few people like you, PJ, came up with their rule books or their box sleeves. Yeah. So that was fun. Now I do have to make one small correction. You said you were the first one that I signed. You were not the first one I signed. You were the first one of. I think you brought me your box sleeve, right?
No, I actually brought my rule book. Yeah.
Okay.
Because
it was the rule book. You were the first rule book I had signed.
There we go.
You were the first rule book I signed, but UKGE, there are lots of signed copies floating around after that.
And did you any observation between the UK Games Expo and Gen Con in terms of how the conventions are, or anything really different?
So I really wish I was able to experience more of the UK Games Expo. I was at my table teaching the entire time that I was there. Gen Con's always a blast. It's so huge, but it's also very commercial. So you're there just buying games. I did see a lot more people playing games at UKGE.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's just general cultural differences. I mean, everybody's gamers, so there's that subculture that everybody has in common. But there are definitely cultural differences about how things are approached there. But all in all, they were both great conventions, and I encourage everyone, if you can possibly, attend both.
It's on my list, as PJ keeps reminding me every year that I have to arrange my holidays with my family to get to Gen Con.
That's okay. And, I got to go to UK Games.
Well, you've got to come to UK Games Expo. So I think that from what I've seen and heard, UK Games Expo has that much broader open play. It's I spend some days mostly gaming versus that more commercial side of wandering around the halls. So it's a nice mix.
I will say, being from Arizona, I really appreciate the weather around UKGE.
Oh yeah, I don't think how it was this year. It wasn't too bad actually.
No, it was It was cold. That was a winter day for me.
Okay, yeah, it was. I think one day it was warmish. I don't remember how it was, but yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, that's a nice, typical English weather with some Vikings out the front.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Do you play games a lot out personally? Are you a gamer?
As much as I can. Absolutely as much as I can. My wife's not a gamer, so I don't get to play as many home games as I would like to play. I do play a lot of Terraforming Mars online through their app. And that's kind of a lot of my gaming experience is online through apps. And then it's on the table lately. It's been mostly playtesting, either my stuff or other people's stuff. So when I get to do gaming events, I have to put that time around playtesting events now more than personal games. I do have a fairly large shelf of shame right up above me here, so I've got to get those all to the table at some point. But yeah,
I can help you with that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You just got to put me up for a weekend, and we can just play nothing but Shelf of Shame. I got you.
All right.
He's very kind, isn't he? And what sort of mechanics are your favorite? What sort of games would be on your top 2 or 3 games ever?
Okay, so my top 2 games, the only 2 games that I have rated a 10 on BGG are Cloudspire and Terraforming Mars.
Okay.
Absolutely love those games.
Very
play
different
them
games too.
Every single opportunity that I get. They're also very different games from each other, but they provide they provide very different thinky feels that I really enjoy. In school, I played a lot of chess. I was in school lunch chess clubs for a fair amount of time. And I learned chess from my grandfather. He's actually the one who really introduced me to games. I used to play chess and Othello with my grandfather all the time. So Cloudspire gives me a lot of that thinking 10 turns ahead. Just trying, because that's the whole game, is you're actually trying to plan out what's going to happen way out before it happens.
Yep.
And Terraforming Mars, it really just leans into the math that I love. So it's just trying to make sure everything's being calculated just right. So those 2 tend to be my favorite. And then typically my favorite to just throw down with friends and family ends up being King of Tokyo or Outrun the Bear. They're designed to kind of fall into those same demographics. Yeah. So it's I
can see those 2 playing nicely together. Yeah.
It's always just like excitement at the table when you have that. So when I am playing with more casual people who end up being who I get to play on the table with most frequently.
Yeah, it's great. That's good. I've not played Cloudspire. I think PJ, did you pick up Cloudspire?
Yep. Yeah, just recently. I'm new to the Cloudspire world, so it's that was a great description. I couldn't have said it better. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I invested in Too Many Bones out of that publishing group. Cool. So that's the path I've been down. I haven't gone down the other path because it gets quite expensive if you start buying everything. It's not a cheap hobby.
I keep on trying to talk a friend into Burn Cycle, so that way he's got Burn Cycle, and we'll play it when we actually get together.
That's gorgeous. That's a gorgeous game. Absolutely. So I have to ask you, is bear safety a topic, an issue that's dear to your heart? Okay, so before you ask, Gareth, why am I asking that? In the rule book, if you buy Outrun the Bear, in the rule book, there is a QR code to the National Park Service bear safety. I love that. What? Well, yes. See, there's a story, and I want to hear that.
Okay, so one of the initial reason why I thought of doing it was I actually remember reading an old article that talked. It was I would have been like 3 when this article came out. But I read the article years later, talking about Tiny Turtle fans, referring to kids who watched the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles getting stuck in sewers trying to find the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So I'm like, all right, I'm making a game that involves a real animal, an animal that should be respected, not necessarily feared, but definitely respected. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to, like, I want it to be very clear that, hey, you should respect this animal after playing this game. I don't want anybody to go up and poke a bear in the butt and hope that things turn out well for them.
Yeah.
Right. But actually, just a couple days ago, I had somebody respond to a Facebook ad saying that the game is such a bad idea because bear safety is a real thing that you have to be concerned about. And she's like, you could have done so many other themes. And I'm like, that's true, but also I didn't tell this to her, but once you play the game, you know, you running from a bear is not necessarily a good idea. It will probably get you. But also I'm like, all right, it is something that should be of serious concern for anybody who does end up encountering a bear. So I wanted to make sure that we called that out, even if it did take up a line in the rule book that could have been used for something else.
Yeah, but it's a good smile. When I read that the first time, I smiled to myself and just thought it's a great bit. Have you ever been run? Have you ever met a bear? Had to outrun a bear?
I have met many bears. I have never had to outrun a bear. You should not run from a bear in real life. Let's just make that clear. They will chase you down. Black bears were real common where my family used to go camping in Tahoe, California. But black bears, they're more like raccoons or squirrels. They're like kind of more pests than scary animals there. Black bears are known to run from you if you chase them. They're though don't go out and try that just because I said that, and not everyone's going to have that happen.
You hear that, Gareth?
You chase a cub, mama's coming for you.
I feel a lot of disclaimers on this podcast at the end of the description.
Actually, we had bear encounters several times while we would go camping. Our most interesting of which was a bear that would open up our cooler and get into our cooler every single night and kept stealing our ice cream. And he also got into a tub of Nesquik. Nesquik was the first couple of nights. Then we had ice cream in the cooler the following night. Gets into the tub with the ice cream, sits down in front of my brother's tent. And my parents are panicking as the most lactose intolerant bear starts shoveling down ice cream into his mouth and just made that campsite a little unbearable for anyone who knew what they were smelling.
Oh, that's a good story.
That's great. So I'm looking through the cards right now, and I want to know, did ice cream make it into the cards? I don't recall ice cream.
There's no ice cream in the cards. No. No. Maybe an expansion.
Yeah, that's just this, an expansion opportunity there for sure.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh no, lactose intolerance. Does that speed up a bear or slow it down? I'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, it's a distraction.
Ooh. That's a good question. If there's anything in future expansions that's going to bring in another animal to outrun, you need an alligator. You need a gator.
Okay.
There needs to be a gator. I'm kind of interested in seeing some sort of a creature or an animal that's chasing the bear to find out why the bear is chasing us, right? Because the premise of the game is
Inception, a game within a game now.
Yeah, there we go. So you can have that if it works. It's all you. I don't need credit for that.
All right. Well, thank you, PJ. You're already in the rule book, right?
I am.
Yeah, I noticed. Yeah. You can't miss that bit out, can you?
Yep.
And there was a lot of playtesting done.
Every opportunity I got.
Yeah, was that a mixture of family, friends, gamers? I guess you're building this through the pandemic as well.
Yeah, so there's probably 12 family and friends that wait, no. Let me count because I've got a big family that all made it in. So 8 of them are in. Then there's probably 16 of those were people who knew me before the board game, friends and family. Then most of the other ones were actually the Gen Con first exposure playtest hall that I did, where I met PJ. And other ones, it was just I hadn't realized like that I wanted to put the playtesters in the rulebook. I didn't even know that the game was going to go to print at the time, so I didn't collect like all of the other events that I did. So if it was somebody's name who I recognized, a shout out, there's August in there with no last name. He was actually my first playtester at a live event to ever sit down for one of my games. So that was him, but I didn't get a lot of people from PAX Unplugged, from Dice Tower West, or from smaller unpubs that I did. And I really wish that I had.
It's good. Yeah. So the rulebook, really, I mean, it just talks its way through, where you need to get to. And I like the fact that the credits at the beginning. So like every time I open a book, I just see PJ's name. So he's got his moment of fame anyway. For those people listening, what's the web address that they can find your web store?
OutrunTheBearGame.com.
That'll be the same. Again, it's going to be on Amazon. There's going to be a UK distributor at some point.
Yeah, so Amazon, it'll just be the Outrun the Bear listing on Amazon. And with the UK option, I don't know that I can share the company's name right now before they put it up there. So I don't want to put any extra burden on that. But also on my website, you can sign up for the newsletters. So outrunthebeargame.com. And if you're not in an area where I'm currently able to send games, then you'll get a notification when you are.
Awesome. Perfect. And what's your socials? Outrun the Bear?
Oh, they are all over the place. Yeah, but mostly Outrun the Bear Game. Outrun the Bear is kind of hard to get because a lot of people like that joke.
Yeah.
But Outrun the Bear Game is typically me.
We'll tag those into the account as well. So, Sam, thank you very much. It's been fascinating listening to you and talking to you through the design of Outrun the Bear. I look forward to some expansions, and ice cream has always been of an interest. Thank you, PJ, for setting this call up. It's been really good fun. And now I shall go and look for bears. No, I won't. I'll put a disclaimer. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. Please subscribe. And as always, we love to hear your thoughts and ideas. So make sure to leave those in the comments. And don't forget, you can also chat with us both on Instagram @Meeple to Meeple.